Did Henry Ford actually sell trucks to the Nazis?
Yeah, it's a question that comes up.
It does come up, and we are going to dive into it in this deep dive using some online sources.
I'll unpack that.
And it's a little bit more complicated than you might think.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Not a simple yes or no answer. We're talking about business and personal beliefs and really global conflict in a very tumultuous time.
Yeah. So to kind of kick things off here, let's rewind way back to 1925.
Okay.
That's when Ford sets up shop in Germany with a subsidiary called Ford-Werke AG.
Right.
And they start producing vehicles, including trucks, for the German market.
Okay.
So far, so good.
Yeah, it seems pretty standard until you fast forward to about the mid-1930s.
Okay.
Germany is rearming and doing it quickly. And Ford-Werke becomes a major supplier of trucks to the German military, the Wehrmacht, which is the unified armed forces of Nazi Germany. By 1935, reports indicate that they're the second biggest truck producer for the German army, right behind G. Mogul.
Wow. Second biggest.
Yeah.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of trucks.
It is a lot of trucks. And this production ramps up even further as Germany marches towards World War II.
Right.
So very important supplier at this point.
Yeah. And then the U.S. enters the war in 1941.
Yeah.
And at that point, Ford's German assets are essentially under Nazi control.
Yeah. So there's debate.
Yeah.
About how much control Henry Ford himself actually had over Ford-Werke, especially after this point.
Right.
Once the U.S. enters the war.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a big question mark.
Yeah. So even though Ford couldn't directly call the shots, was there any indication that they knew what was happening?
That's the thing. There is evidence that suggests that the Ford Motor Company in Dearborn was not only aware of the sales to the German military before the U.S. joined the war, but actually benefited from them. And here's another thing. After the war, Ford sought compensation from the U.S. government for damages to its German plants. So that kind of suggests a continued financial interest in those operations, even after everything that had happened.
Wow. So they potentially profited during the war?
Yeah.
And then wanted compensation for damages.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
That's a lot.
It is. And we haven't even touched on Henry Ford's personal views.
Right.
Which makes things even more complicated.
Yes. This is where it gets really, really sticky, I think.
Yeah, Ford was well known for his anti-Semitic beliefs.
Right.
Which he spread through his newspaper, the Dearborn Independent.
Right. And so this is where you see a connection, right? Hitler openly admired Ford's writings. Even referenced him in Mein Kampf.
Yeah, there's a lot there to unpack.
Yeah, it makes you question the extent to which Ford's personal ideology influenced his company's actions. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, was selling trucks to the Nazis just business? Or was there something more to it?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's unsettling, to say the least.
Yeah, it is unsettling. It makes you think about the responsibility of businesses, especially in times of conflict.
Absolutely. And it raises questions about how we reconcile the accomplishments of figures like Henry Ford with their deeply flawed beliefs.
Right.
It's complex.
So what are some of the key takeaways here? What do we know for sure?
Well, we know that Ford, through its German subsidiary, supplied trucks to the Nazi regime.
Okay.
But the level of Henry Ford's personal involvement and endorsement, particularly after the U.S. entered the war, is still debated by historians. What is clear is that there are many layers to this story, and it raises important questions about the intersection of business and morality during wartime.
It most certainly does. This deep dive leaves us with a lot to ponder.
It does.
How should we view historical figures like Henry Ford, knowing what we know now?
Yeah, it's a question worth considering.
It is.
As we continue to learn from the past.
Yeah, and with that, I think we'll wrap up this deep dive.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time.
See you later.